leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC with Katy Hopkins. Call 0345 60 60 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC.
Good morning, Great Britain, and guess what? We won! We left the EU and no one could be happier about it than me. I am bringing back the balance here at LBC. I am a thorn amongst a garden of liberal roses, and I am going to stand up for the 52% of you who decided we should take our country back. Give me a call and let me know what you think, why you're glad we left, why you're now happy that your grandchildren have an opportunity in this country. We are going to be across Labour stories, but first of all we're going to be talking about the 52% of you that were brave enough to dare to dream. So we're going to come to all of your calls on Brexit in just a moment. The 52% of you who were brave enough, bold enough, even could be asked enough to get yourself to a ballot box and vote to leave the EU. I admire you. I stand up for you. I applaud you. I cried for you on Friday morning because I was so proud. My fourth leave sign is still in my garden as we speak because no one could be even bothered to steal that one, having stolen the first three. So we're going to be talking to you about the good news story that is leaving the EU, because I am sick of the doom and gloom. We're going to come to that in a second. But first, I just want to get an update on this breaking story this morning. The Labour Party is in complete disarray after Jeremy Corbyn sacked Hilary Benn from the shadow cabinet overnight. And this morning, Heidi Alexander handed in her resignation. They say there's going to be a resignation an hour. LBC presenter Tom Swarbrick has been following this story carefully from the start and joins me in the studio now. Tom, this is extraordinary, isn't it?
It is, but it's been coming. Hilary Benn rang Jeremy Corbyn in the wee small hours of this morning to say he didn't have any confidence that Corbyn would win a general election, so Jeremy Corbyn sacked him. This morning, Heidi Alexander, the Shadow Health Minister, has resigned. Hilary Benn has just ruled himself out as a potential future Labour leader. He says the right thing for Corbyn to do is to resign. There is a vote of no confidence in Corbyn next week. I don't know whether we're going to make it to that at this rate, because Labour sources are saying there will be 10 resignations from the Shadow Cabinet today, that it is organised, it is designed to cause maximum damage to Jeremy Corbyn. Either he resigns or he's pushed out. It's reported that Labour sources have said there are apparently a critical mass of people who will resign and trigger this leadership coup. Corbyn spokespeople are saying effectively not on your Nelly. They will thank people for their service and they will employ new people into those roles. There will be no resignation, they say, of an elected leader with a strong mandate from membership. At this rate, one tweeter has suggested, given the state of the Labour Party right now, a bust of Lenin might feature in the future shadow cabinet.
And in terms of the Labour Party as a whole, the impact outside of the bubble of Westminster, where are people in Labour? What are they looking at?
Well, I think it's precisely what you're going to touch on this hour, isn't it? That those 52% of people from the demographics of those who voted, particularly in the north of England, would traditionally have been Labour voters. How are they going to square their Labour membership or their thoughts or belief in the Labour Party, a party that campaigned effectively to remain in the European Union? How do you square that hole?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, presumably we'll be coming back to you once you get the news of the next resignation, whomever it may be. What are your bets on?
Whomever and whenever it may be. We'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be a busy morning.
OK, perfect. Tom, thank you very much indeed for your time. So we'll be going back to Tom just as soon as we hear who's next to take a walk out of Jeremy Corbyn's cabinet. I've suggested he might want to get some mirrors installed there just so it looks like there's more people and he can feel better about his poor little socialist ego. Now, give me a call. Keep trying today because our phone lines are busy. We've got extra staff on hand. We've got call centres in Wales and Glasgow, offshore in India, no doubt, helping us man the phones today. 0345 6060 973, because we've decided here at LBC it's time you had your say. It's time 52% of Britain, who actually haven't been heard yet, have their say about what's great about the fact that you stood up for your country. You stood up for Great Britain and you got our country back, because boy oh boy do I love you right now. I even love people in the north that I thought I could never love, but I love you like a brother I never had. Dawn, you're in Loughton. What would you like to say?
I'd just like to say I've been watching the news and everything over the weekend, and I'm absolutely fed up with the government saying that we're uneducated because we voted leave. I have two daughters who have got degrees. I didn't take this lightly, what I voted. I really looked into this. And I'm sick of Brussels acting like children. I think they all need to get together and perfectly grow up. It's like we've said no, we've stood up, and they're all chucking their toys out the pram, and I am sick of it. We've got the government rowing and arguing between each other. We voted these people in.
Absolutely.
We voted these people in, and all they are so far removed from their people. And what I've been watching on the telly today, they still can't see it.
I'm so with you. Dawn, this has been... You are me. You at home now. Are you in your kitchen, Dawn?
I'm fuming.
Yes, you are me, Dawn. I have been sat at home in my kitchen, well, round the globe as it happens this last week.
I've been ranting all weekend,
yes.
And I'm sick to death.
I know. It makes you clench, doesn't it?
You've got David Cameron. He stood there yesterday looking all sorry for himself. Sorry, but all you care about is yourself.
I know.
The people have spoken. We voted you in. I'm not saying he hasn't done a bad job, but we voted you in. And you let us down tremendously. All you cared about was Brussels. And Brussels controlled us.
I think as well, Dawn, don't you? Dawn.
With me.
Dawn. Don't you think, Dawn? Don't you think as well, Dawn? I know you're cross and you're having a rant, and that's good. It's good to get stuff off your chest. It's what I've done all my life, hence my chest is pretty small.
Yeah.
But I do think it's good to get it off your chest. But I do think as well, this is bigger than politicians, isn't it? This is a lot of people saying, Leave supporters are stupid. Leave supporters are thick. I've heard it this morning. Leave supporters, they're such thick idiots.
All we're getting. Yes, that is all we're getting. We are idiots. Well, I don't think we are, because I don't think
you are either, Dawn. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we'll end up a better country.
Good, Dawn.
They're not listening to us.
I think it's true, Dawn. And, I look at my children, and when they were little tiny babies, if they fell over, they cried. 2 minutes later, give them a sweet, they cheered up. That's how I see the young people in this country who wanted to remain. They're crying today. Give them a couple of hours, give them a sweet pat on the head. They'll cheer up. We've just got to give them a bit of time. We're older and wiser. We get it.
Years of what we've had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of them, especially my daughter. She wasn't even born when we joined Europe.
Perfect. Dawn, thank you so much for your call today and for having a good old rant. And I am welcoming rants from everybody today. Maybe you're a Remain supporter, somebody that wanted to stay in. Maybe you're one of those lovely people that have clicked on a petition to make yourself feel better because you didn't actually turn up to the ballot box. So you've actually clicked on a petition, because that's democracy right there. Do give me a call if you're one of those 2.5 million people who've wasted your time, because I'd love to hear from you too. 03456060973. Sue, you're in Sheen. What would you like to say?
Hello, Katy. Oh, there's so much I want to say, but I know
Go on then, Sue.
I've got a certain amount of time.
No, you go for your life.
I have never been more optimistic for our country.
Oh.
And I just feel that we just need to big up the UK, because it's a fantastic country. But also, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the EU to take a look at themselves and find out why a country like ours, has so many benefits to them, wants to leave them. And I know they're saying it's all racial and it's all the immigrants and it's all everything else, but there are core issues that we have serious worries about. TTIP, for one, the fact that we're all getting an EU tax code, as far as I've heard on LBC over the past time. Also, the fact that they're going to form an EU army. I mean, they're the big ones. What are the other things that
Sue, hold on a minute, Sue. Was that a big one for you, an EU tax code? Because, frankly, I couldn't care less about that.
Well, to be quite honest, it isn't that it's the tax code per se. It's the fact that everything's been drawn away from this country and centralised in the EU.
Yes.
And it's our sovereignty that worries me.
There we go. So you really, that links back then. So a tax code for you is sort of the front door, but the house is sovereignty, ever closer union. That's really the core.
Well, this is the thing, and I think with our politicians, they have been cruising through, blaming. And I must tell you this: Anna Strawberry last night on Channel 4.
I love her.
Said that, she said that they're partly to blame for the exit, because they have been allowing the misconception that every bad law that's been passed or we have to be accountable to is actually the EU, when most of the time it's not.
Sue, thank you very much indeed for your call. Thank you, Sue. The reason I'm slightly spinning through these calls at quite a rate of knots is because we are literally chocker here, but we're going to get to you, so bear with us and do think about what's the top line points you want to get across when you've got your moment, because we want to hear from you. Mark, you're in Chippenham. What is it you'd like to say? Did you vote in or were you out? Will you leave or will you remain?
Hi, Katy. I voted to leave, and I'm absolutely over the moon. I can't stop smiling. Absolutely.
I know.
Brilliant.
I walked into London last night, and I could have bounced around just because I felt like the odd one out in town. Not because it was LGBT, because go them, but because I felt like I stood for something, and London failed to stand for something. Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely, and I think it's really important to your listeners to know that the second referendum petition is actually a fraud.
Oh, of course.
If you look at the metadata from the website...
I've got that on my file.
Yeah, well, so if you look at the data behind the website, it actually shows that people from around the world are voting.
Congo.
People on Twitter are actually getting people to vote using their postcode.
I've got that file too. Fear not,
and I
Mark.
think it's an affront to democracy. I think, these young people complaining, only 25% of all 18 to 25-year-olds actually voted.
I know.
So they need to stop complaining.
They do.
Old people have equal rights too. They contribute as much as young people. If not, they've contributed more over their life. So they have a vote. They have a right to vote. And I think the vote needs to be respected. People like David Lammy and the Lib Dems saying, this is madness. We need to stop this going through. 72.2% of people voted.
Absolutely, Mark.
Absolute overwhelming majority. It needs to be respected. And these people talking about the economy crashing, well, the pound is actually higher than at the start of the week.
Mark, nice. Well, nicely done there by Mark, putting across good few points there. One, that petition is a load of old baloney. Don't feel scared by it. Ignore it. I have the file showing where the metadata comes from. Most of those people are foreigners, all using postcodes that are fraudulent in order to click on that petition. Don't ignore that petition, please, of 2.whatever million that other people are bleating on about. And please, as well, don't get dismayed, disheartened by the markets. I can post pictures for you later at the end of the show. I'll get them up on the website. The market is now in a higher position than it was at the beginning of the week. The market took a bet. It bet the wrong horse. I have a horse face, but guess what? I bet on the right horse. So I'm just looking at one of our tweets here on Twitter. I may lose my voice in the next couple of hours. Tune into LBC to hear a right-wing fascist gloat as her racist views are legitimised thanks to a vote based on lies. She's the presenter. Yes, I am. And guess what that means? That means I've got the mic. We're chock-a-block with calls, tweets and text at this end, but I really want to know who's standing up for the 52% of you who voted in favour of Brexit, because guess what? Today it's me. Are you sick of this Remain cloud of doom and gloom hanging over the UK? Shouldn't we be excited like I am for the next step, backing Boris? You're listening to Katy Hopkins on LBC. The time's now 10:16. From 034560600973. So here we are, and I am excited because we voted leave. We voted to leave the EU, and so far we've not heard anybody stand up for the 52% of you who voted to leave, who dared to dream, who bet against the market and said, yes, we can get our country back. And I want to hear from you this morning because I'm sick of all of this liberal whinging because you lost. You lost the vote. So suck it up is what I'm telling you. I'm telling other presenters here too. Suck it up because we won. Leave won. We are going to have our country back. We are going to control our own laws. We are going to control our own legislation. We are not going to be told what to do by a bunch of bureaucrats in Brussels, all of whom I have to say are quite short as well. And we are not going to have ever closer union for our country. And we will not allow our old people to be frightened by our own politicians that we elected into power. And we will show people that we are better than that. And once people have stopped their collective whinging, we will come back better, stronger, and a Britain that is greater. So do call me if you're one of the 52%, 034560600973. I'd love to hear from you. Hugh, you're in Bristol. What would you like to say?
Well, I'd just like to say that I think the fact that you're saying that all of these kind of young people sort of being ageist and
yes, I am.
Calling all the other people stupid, and then going on to say that we just need a pat on the head and a biscuit.
Yeah, you do.
I think is completely unhelpful.
Hugh, how old are you, lovely?
I think that's irrelevant for the time being. I'll say in a minute.
Okay, are you under 20?
No, I'm over 20.
Okay, thanks.
I think regardless of who won, there would have been this tension between the generations. And I think that when that becomes exacerbated by this kind of just sort of silly finger-pointing on both sides, but I think just then you were calling the people in Brussels short. That's not helpful. That's not an attitude.
I'm not really trying to be helpful this morning, Hugh. The only people I'm really looking to help this morning are the 52% of this great country of mine that voted to leave and haven't yet had a voice, Hugh. Did you turn out to vote?
Of course. I think everyone should vote.
You say, of course, Hugh, but I'm not stupid, am I? Because a third of your age group didn't turn out to vote. So how can you say, of course, in that tone?
Well, how do you know how old I am?
You said you were over 20.
Well, yeah, I could be...
Yeah, I have caught you out there, Hugh. So anyway, moving along, if you can keep up with me, what's your point? Your point is that we shouldn't be pointing fingers at young people. Hugh, okay, so there's a sort of a point, I suppose, about people that voted for Remain, especially young people, can't really take the argument, can't really handle it when you challenge back at them, or can't really handle it when you point out a few facts and sort of run away from the phone. I hope you're feeling much better now that you found your mum, who's no doubt paying for your lodging as well. Mia, you're in Cambridge. What would you like to say?
I am. Hi, Katy.
Hi, Mia.
First of all, I'm an American married to a Brit who comes from a big liberal family. I am not a liberal. I am anything but. I'm also a German citizen. I was born in Germany with family who lives in Cologne. So if that means anything to the listeners, it's huge. I have to say, I've been following you on Twitter, and you have provided the only source of hope and support for my ideas. I just wanted to say I didn't vote as an American. I can't, but I am never more happy and proud of the British people for their decision. It gives hope to the continent. It gives hope to this country. And I am elated. I also am a follower of and a big supporter of Donald Trump's movement. So you can imagine, with a liberal family, the hell I have been going through and not being able to voice my opinions without fingers being pointed and basically backed into a corner. I think this is a great movement and a great opportunity for this country, and I just wanted to be able to tell you that there are many, many people, regardless of what the media reports, in the United States, all over Europe, who support this movement, and I am absolutely 100% behind it.
Oh, Mia, thank you so much for your call. And I think the lovely thing about you as a caller and all of our callers, and that's why this seat is truly a privileged one here at LBC, is it's so representative. Mia's call there just representing hundreds of emails I've had overnight from individuals who work in colleges, schools, organisations, who voted Leave but had no one to tell, who felt they couldn't air their views, who felt they couldn't tell their colleagues they were voting Leave because it was seen as the wrong option. Mia there saying she lives amongst a liberal family. She can't express her views because they are seen as wrong. I do not understand how we've reached a place in this country which has democracy where some views are right and some views are wrong, where if you voted in, that's seen as being kind of liberal, it's seen as being kind of elite, that maybe you're smarter, and if you voted Leave, then you're at the bottom tier of society and maybe you're a little bit thick. And there's a lot of America that are actually out supporting Leavers right now. They're supporting people who voted Leave because you stood up and you dared to dream, in the same way that many of them are looking for that kind of opportunity in the States. Great call there from Mia. Alex, what would you like to say? You're in Romford. Ooh.
Yes, I am, yeah.
You voted Leave, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, but reluctantly, actually, because my mum's an immigrant, my wife's an immigrant, and I got to say, my vote was purely down to immigration. Now, I know that people said with business, it's going to be bad for business, but you know what, since I've been alive, I think we've had one recession that I know of, the other one I was too young for. It was always going to happen, but with my line of business, what I've seen, which I rent properties. It's like a housing association, and I've got two lots of tenants who came from Northern Africa. Now I've talked to them a lot. They're really nice, actually, but they were denied asylum in the UK, so they went to Holland. Holland gave them a Dutch passport, and now they live here. But the argument for them is that they're actually the ones that I'd like to have it because they don't have their benefits paid for them. They both work, and they're all working hard, which I've actually got no issue with. But the fact that they could do that, I mean, if we as a country are denying people entry, yet they can go somewhere else, get that passport and come here, that's what I wasn't too keen about. And even when I talked to some of my friends about it, they were going, "Oh no, it's really quite a racist thing to say." And I said, "Look, well, it's not. It's And they said, "Well, what about business?" But I said, "Look, business is always going to be bad. You know, it's going to be bad, and it comes back. But for me, it's in the long run. You know, all right. You know, now it might be all right, but can we continue to do this for 10 years or so?" And I think what's going to make it easier now, I think a lot of other countries are going to.
I agree with you entirely,
my
Alex.
French and her family have been saying the same thing. And I think we'll be all right in the long run.
I think we will as well, Alex. I think you're absolutely right. I think we need a week or so for everyone to regroup and to feel better about themselves, like that moment after an impact. Maybe you've just had a divorce and you need a week of spending too much money to make yourself feel better about yourself, that you've just divorced your husband. But personally, from personal experience, having divorced my first husband, I found it to be thoroughly therapeutic, and my life has got considerably better thereafter. So if divorce is an analogy, I say get rid of the guy, but get yourself a good barrister at the same time. Might be wise advice for our country. Just looking at a few of our texts for Katy. Strong opposition after leaving, but we're not hearing anything, and no backing from Brexit leaders. No encouragement, just silence. Where are they? Yes, where are you, George Osborne? You little mole down a hole. Are you hiding in an underground bunker? Because frankly, your leadership options are slipping through your fingers faster than your receding hairline. So I'd like to hear from you, George. Do come and join me. There's a seat right opposite me you can have. Morning, lovely Katy. You're on fire this morning. Thank you. And superb news, we voted out. On cloud 9. Finally, this country can start moving on with business. Another loyal listener. Adrian, you're my favourite listener so far, because you've been very nice about being on fire. Katy, I love listening to you. This is so nice. Look, our lefties producers upstairs are going to really struggle with this because they don't like to hear people loving the Hopkins. You've really brought balance back over the airwaves. People are so short-sighted and base life on economics rather than family values. This is a good one. Who's this from? Tina. Tina, well done. As for the unintelligent people voting out, I found the out-voters far more informed and articulate than the ones who want to be chained to the ropes of Europe. Lovely, that's lovely. Paul, you're in Tower Hamlets. What would you like to say?
Hello, Katy. Great to talk to you. I really enjoy listening to you, and particularly today. But I'm going to say something that maybe a little bit you may not like to hear. I don't think you can be claiming the 52%.
Okay.
I did vote to remain, quite strongly voted to remain, and I do think that this is I'm obviously not celebrating the way you have been, but I'm just saying that I don't think enough of... I'm perfectly happy to listen to a debate on this.
Of course.
I've got some wonderful callers who have been ringing in who say fabulously, really cleverly, well-thought-through arguments for leave, and I think that's wonderful, and that's all part of our democracy. But unfortunately, far too many people who voted to leave have voted purely because of immigration, very ignorantly because of immigration, and that's nothing I don't think is going to change. I haven't heard anyone in the Brexit camp or the Leave camp say that it's going to be better or it's going to be different or it's going to be reduced, and I think these people have been hoodwinked. And had it been a vote about the real issues to do with the European Union, which I would have welcomed and desperately wanted, we would have possibly had a very different outcome. And I don't think you can go around claiming 52%, because I don't think that is fair or realistic.
And just in terms of that not being able to claim 52%, I've absolutely heard your argument about this has been based on immigration. That's not a sufficient argument. Do you mean the numbers, the 52%, you don't think are real, or they don't make sense, or they're not legitimate? Is that it?
No, I think it's real, and I think a democracy is as a democracy is. So we have to accept the outcome. I think we do have to accept it, but I don't think it's fair to say that the majority of the voters really understood what they were voting for, and the issues that we are now facing, unravelling ourselves from the European Union, are not necessarily going to be met in the expectations that they have, because most of them have voted purely because it's immigration.
OK, so Paul, thank you. No, Paul, I'm going to shut you down there just because of the time. Thank you so much for your call. Very well put. I do find that comment, majority of voters voted but didn't know what they were voting for. Do you know, that makes my hole from my stomach downwards clench into a knot, because I think that's just quite a patronising attitude, if I'm honest. I think the majority of voters did know what they were voting for, and many of them were voting to do with their hearts, to do with, for me, a Chelsea pensioner would be enough to look at and go, that's why I'm voting. They fought with Enfields. I'm going to fight back with a pen in a box, which is a bit lame, but that's the reason I fought, because I love my country. It's so great to hear so many positive calls, and people here on text and tweet as well saying, what a refreshing change to have someone being positive about the fact that we voted leave. I want to know, where are the media, the politicians and the leaders in this country standing up for the 52% who voted leave? Where is the optimism to take this country forward? We're also going to keep you across this breaking news story. Hilary Benn's been sacked from the Shadow Cabinet. I think it's a pretty good egg. Heidi Alexander has resigned this morning. She's styling it out. We'll get more on that shortly. But right now, let's get an update on that Labour story from Glenn Moore, who has the latest news headlines. 03456 08060 973. Do keep trying to call, or if you can't get through, do text us or tweet us. We'll read those out. We'll get some of the best stuff up on our website, lbc.co.uk. And we have got reinforcements in to help man the phone, because 52% of this great nation of mine voted to get out of the EU, to get out from under the feet of bureaucrats who are walking all over us. And yet we haven't had a voice. We have had no one speaking out for us. And today at LBC, you have the chair here. And I want to hear the positivity that you feel about the fact that you took a brave step. You dared to dream, and you stood up for your country, and you took your country back. I'm being called a racist left, right and centre for thinking like that. But if that makes me a racist by your definition, I will accept that from you, because I'm proud of my stance. I'm proud to stand up for the 52%. And in the absence of strong leadership, which I'm sure will come back next week when they've had a little rest, then I will stand up and take their place. 03456 6060 973. You've just heard there in the news that over 3 million Brits have signed a petition calling for a second EU referendum after Friday's Brexit vote. It suggests another referendum is required because the winning side, that's my side, got less than 60% of the vote. And there was a less than 75% turnout. Now, don't you just love these guys? Don't you love this petition? I love it. I love it. I love it, because every time someone clicks on it, I can hear the tears of a sorry loser falling on their keyboard, sticky from the last time they got off playing some kind of PlayStation game when they've never seen the light. They've probably got skin as translucent as net curtains. And, you know, it says 3 million Brits have signed that petition. I tell you what, I've got the files on that, and there's no Brits there. Well, there's a few, but most people come from all over the globe. They've got postcodes posted up there for you to use people's postcodes to fraudulently click on that petition. And big news for you all. Big news for the sorry losers. Big news for the in-team. Clicking on a petition is not going to do anything. You cannot invent retrospective laws to make the bar higher just because you failed to jump over it. Do you understand? That petition is not going to get anything to happen. Just like the petition of 300,000 people that told me I should be sacked. I kept my job. So petitions changenothing.org. So you can take your petition. If it makes you feel better, click yourself to death on it. But you are not going to get a second referendum here in the UK. Daniel, you're in Sheffield. What would you like to say? No, you're not. You're in Shenfield.
Shenfield,
pardon me.
No problem at all. I'm one of the plebeian army, by the way.
Good lad.
The 52%, because we've been branded these uneducated idiots.
Yeah, we are thick. We're idiots, losers. And we're racist as well, Daniel.
Yes, exactly. So basically, all I'd quickly like to say is that I lived in Italy from 94 to 99, and I've seen what the euro has done to that country. For the last 17 years, it's basically crawling on its knees, as is Spain, as is Portugal, as is Greece, and France as well. You know, basically, the EU utopian idea is a fantastic idea, but it's just not working. Now, if we close our ties to these guys, the EU is destined to fail. It will fail. It's inevitable. You know, the closer we are to it, we'll go down with it. That's all I'd like to say. I think, you know, we kind of brand all these figures are being thrown around. The immigration issue, yeah, it's an issue. But at the end of the day, we're signing up to a dream that just isn't working. And it's never going to work. When you've got 25% unemployment under the age of 25 in Italy, you've got 40% unemployment under the age of 25 in Spain, that just tells you there's a lost generation of people. And eventually those voices are going to rise up. Now, there'll be a revolution. It might not be a violent one, but there will be a revolution. Change is afoot. It's inevitable. You can't have these kind of things going on in Europe and no one acting. Someone will act eventually, and we'll go down with it. We're closely tied to it.
Nice. Daniel, thank you very much indeed. I think that's a very helpful call, a very informative call, and a very fact-based call from one of our group, who I agree, you'd agree, we've been called thick, we've been called racist, and we've been called ignorant, because we didn't really know what we were voting for when we voted leave. But I think rather eloquently they're putting out exactly why we needed to get out of the EU before it dragged us down with it. I'm hoping very much that my vote, your vote for leave, 52% of you, your vote for leave will have flicked that first domino, and we will watch Europe fall, and I will celebrate when that happens. If we get Frexit behind us, whomever leads that, I say go Frexit, because the more people that leave that nasty, sordid group of individuals who take our cash from us and give us very little back, in my personal opinion, a very good thing. Janet, you're in Isha. What would you like to say?
I so totally agree with you, and like a lot of other people, I gave up time to go and help at the Leave EU HQ. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, and the media are not reflecting it, apart from yourself,
Thank you.
that there were people there from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of religions, all sorts of ages, particularly young people, who were helping out on the phones, talking to people, doing all sorts of other jobs. And that is what we have to reflect, because, as I say, I'm here from the Leave EU people, and it was just, we were up all night. It was just a wonderful feeling.
It wasn't exciting. Didn't you just, every time an area reported their ballot box and it was for Leave, didn't you just jump around? And then if one came in for a May, just, I fell out with Liverpool really badly.
The leaders came in, people came in to encourage us. And at 9 o'clock, when we finished and the polls were closing at 10 o'clock, we were all outside the building by Lambeth Bridge with posters, and people were hooting us. The taxi drivers were hooting us. The lorry drivers, all thumbs up.
Yeah, good for you, Janet.
It's people across the board, no matter where they come from, and a lot of people came down from out of London to help all over the country, and there were people from Holland, Denmark, Italy, wanted to see how we did it.
Oh, well done, Janet. Good for you. And I think a well-deserved break probably required, and to get rid of that cough. Alicia, you're in Cambridge. What would you like to say?
Oh, hello, Katy. I'm really, you're my favourite presenter. Thank you so much for covering this topic.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm absolutely enraged hearing children phone in and tell me, as a molecular biologist and a Cambridge academic, that I'm obviously totally stupid and couldn't possibly have understood the economic arguments and all the other arguments. I would say to them, first of all, go and look up TTIP if you can spell it. Secondly, I'd like to alert them to the fact that when they talking about uni, first of all, it's university. Secondly, my generation, yours and mine, we did exams years and years ago when A-levels were worth doing, when GCSEs were worth doing, and a lot of times when they come up, they have very little critical thinking ability, and I've also been a teacher, not just an academic, and I can tell you that they're enjoying being spoon-fed. They need to be spoon-fed all the time. And when a lot of them phoned in and said, we were taught this at school, I'd like to teach them that the things you learn at school, you learn a lot more when you leave school, picking it up by osmosis, and they really need to go and read a proper newspaper, get a better education before they tell their elders and betters, including myself and older people, and I'm only 39, what we should do, say and think. And I'd just like to say our generation weren't expected. When we were 17 and 18, we didn't think we were entitled to rule the roost, and neither should they, especially when they are using Google as most of their information, not books, not the Encyclopedia Britannica, and not very much at all.
Alicia, it was a great rant. It was a worthy rant, one certainly worthy of this show. I'm not sure where you managed to breathe from during that rant, but we will pass on that delicate detail. But a very good point there, and well articulated, that we're not thick individuals. Yourself there, a molecular biologist who understood perfectly for whom you were voting, what Leave would mean, and that being sort of dismissed as an ignorant actually isn't a very good argument, nor a very democratic one. I did promise my dear listeners last night at God knows what time that I'd have a good old go at Lord Sugar and at Gary Lineker on the radio today, who were both bumbling away last night that this should be rerun, there should be a second referendum. It didn't go the way you wanted, so it doesn't count. It's not legitimate. This isn't democracy. Well, big news, small boys. This is democracy. 52% of this country voted to leave. You will respect their decision. And Lord Sugar, I will invite you here on my show right now. You'll be the only candidate for the job. And frankly, sir, I'll be telling you for the second time in my life that you're fired, so you can suck that up too. Sarah, you're in Reading. What would you like to say?
Hi there, Katy.
Hi, sweetie.
I just wanted to say, as a young person who voted Leave, I just think how annoying and how, I guess in a way, like how sick I am of people saying that, they're racist and they're unintelligent. I mean, I think, what have I got? I've got a year left of my university degree to do, so I wouldn't sit there and say, oh yeah, I'm a completely unintelligent person.
No.
And I wouldn't say I'm a racist myself either. So I think when when the results came through and I opened my Facebook feed the next morning, I think seeing all the racists have won and the xenophobics have won, I think it just kind of grinds my gears a bit. And I thought most of the people on my feed were young people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who were at university the same as me. And I just thought, and I wrote a status up and I said, most people who know me know I'm definitely not a racist, and I wouldn't particularly call myself unintelligent doing a university degree, and a lot of people actually agree with what I said.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel, Sarah, as a young person, and I don't mean that in a patronising way, that I'm just meaning, were you able to tell your friends how you were voting, or was it seen as kind of something you had to keep on the down low, something that wasn't a position you could really talk about too openly because it was the wrong side of the debate?
I think I didn't speak to many of my friends about it simply because it didn't come up in conversation. But with the ones that did, I got kind of shot down quite a lot. And I discussed it with some people who I work with, and they're like, oh, I don't know why you're voting this. They haven't got a plan, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, let's just see how the vote goes. And I just thought, you're not, they're completely wrong, but I thought, look how it's gone now. And they have nothing to say anymore.
No, absolutely. Sarah, thank you very much indeed for your call. So lovely to hear all your calls this morning. We are going to get to you and your text and tweets. Thank you very much. If you're sick of doom and gloom in this country, do give me a call. Shouldn't we be celebrating this Leave vote? Aren't there lots of fantastic news items we could be talking about? We can ignore that pathetic little poll that people keep talking about, the petition that people keep talking about. We can safely ignore doom and gloom messages from a lot of the BBC that are coming out that are being refuted, even from the companies like Morgan Stanley that were quoted as moving their jobs. I do think there's been too much doom-mongering, and this is all about the positivity of the Leave campaign, that we were not going to be afraid. We're also going to keep you across that breaking news story with the Labour Party. Hillary Benn have gone, Heidi Alexander has dropped off, and there's more to come. We'll be taking your calls on the issue with Labour shortly. You're listening to Katy Hopkins on LBC. The time's now 10:47. 0345 6060 973, and we're talking about the 52% of this great country of ours who voted to leave the EU, and we're talking about the fact really there's been a dearth of celebration about this result. Apart from on the night, there's been a dearth of people explaining, articulating why they voted that way, why it is a positive thing for our country, why actually after a period of initial transition in 5 years, in 2 years, in 1 year, our country could be standing tall because we were brave enough to dare to dream. We've heard so much doom and gloom. I cannot even look on certain public sector websites because I cannot believe the nonsense that they are trotting out. We've got the presenters with the long faces warning us. We've got people from the markets ignoring the fact that the market's now back up to the level that it was 7 days ago. And we've just heard doom and gloom from the Liberals all around us just because the vote did not go their way. And I'm absolutely tired of it. So I'm welcoming your calls if you voted Leave or you voted Remain. But I'm just kind of talking about the positive elements and why actually is perfectly within your rights to completely ignore the ridiculous petition that people are clicking on just because they couldn't be bothered to go to the polling booth and actually cast their ballot, and because they're cross they didn't get their own way. It reminds me of very small children. Probably best to send them to their bedroom until they're feeling a little bit better. Ben, you're in Abbots Langley. What would you like to say?
I'm really happy with the result. I voted out. I was bored of, these people in Brussels being in charge of certain legislation and the way we spend our money. I think it's ridiculous. But what's even more annoying is these people that lost the campaign that are now saying, oh, there should be a second referendum because it was only a 52% majority, because less than 75%.
That's correct. Yeah.
I think, and the reason for that is there were lies told during the campaign. Well, first of all, we have to remember that it was Leave and Remain, and neither party was in a position to make any actual changes. That's down to the government. But second of all, there was David Cameron saying, if you vote to leave, the minute we get that result from the referendum, I'm going to invoke Article 50, which he's failed to do, which I wish he would just get on with and do, because what's the point in hanging around? I voted out. I want to leave today. And the second point is George Osborne talking about the emergency budget and these, awful cuts that he will have to make to NHS and education and all the rest of it. Well, that hasn't transpired either. So how can they talk about the lies that were told during the campaign when, there are two very valid points just there, and that's without even having to think about it.
And actually, Ben, that's been one of the really interesting conversations going on overnight and into this morning is Article 50. So Article 50 is what we need to invoke. So under Article 50, Britain can request or tell the EU that it wants to start the negotiations to leave the European Union. So Article 50 is the umbrella under which we act when we are leaving the EU. David Cameron always says, I will give you a referendum the day after. If you vote to leave, I will invoke Article 50. Instead, what he did was came out of number 10 and talked about being a captain of a ship and someone else needing to sail it now into new waters.
And you could argue that he's been kind of clever in what he's done.
Really clever.
He's had responsibility over to somebody else, and nobody else is going to want to invoke Article 50. But the other point is, lots of people, 52% of the people that turned out to vote wanted to leave, and that's the end of it. There's no point in trying to string it out even further. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, how bullied we are by the European Union when they say, you've had your referendum, you've had the result, we want you to start the process.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, Ben, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think this Article 50 will become the interesting talking point as we move forward. For me, I'm wondering who's going to want to stand up and in history be remembered as the man/woman, although Theresa May's not got a chance in hell because she's utterly pathetic. But are you sure if she wants to come on the show? That'd be great. But who's going to be the man that decides that he will be the one that goes down in history as having taken us out of the European Union? We've got Tony Blair with Iraq, you have Churchill, we'll fight them on the beaches, Thatcher had Falklands. Who's going to be the man that invokes Article 50? It'll be super interesting to find out. Julie, we're going to come to you really quickly. I think, we're going to Ferguson, I believe. Hold on, we're just having a small, because of the sheer volume on the phone lines, we're going to find the right person who's been queuing the longest. Julie, you're in Norfolk. We're so sorry about that. We're just having a small phone dilemma. What would you like to say?
Yes, I wanted to point that I couldn't vote in the 1975 original referendum, but my husband could, and my friends could, and they voted not to go in. And it was the older generation that voted to put us in. We have endured the erosion of our democracy, the free movement of people, boom and bust. And in 1992, we were all paying 15 to 18% on our mortgages, struggling like anything. So I'm fed up with that we haven't struggled. We have struggled. And when I said to my son, who's a university graduate, as I am a university graduate, you must vote, and all his friends said, all I tell you to do is look at TTIP, look at the 5 presidents report, and look at VAT intention. And by the way, Germany has the lowest VAT in the EU, and the poorer countries have the highest. And they all changed their mind, and they all voted out. I would rather be a poor free man than living under a manor and going back to serfdom to the 13th century. And I say to people, your democracy is worth more than a pound in your pocket. And we will be fine. We've always been fine. And I remember what it was to be in Europe before being a member of the EU. And I am incandescent with rage over this referendum. We live in a democracy. Respect our democracy.
Oh, Julie, I love that. I could pot that rant and put it into my pocket, and then any time I come amongst a Liberal, which is often in my sphere of work, I could get you out of my pocket and press play and let them hear you rant away about the fact that you have endured, because of your birth date being post 1975, you've endured years and years of Europe, and that this has been your moment to reclaim democracy. This has been your moment to reclaim your country. You endured the decision of the older generation, and now you've had your say. We voted for leave, and you have celebrated that in the best way by calling LBC and having your say. I say go, Julie, and thank you so much to everyone. I can't say enough apologies for the fact we haven't got to all your calls, but we've really been inundated. But thank you so much for all your calls. It's been a wonderful hour. I hope that we have brought some positivity back to this referendum, and I hope that our leaders took note vote that we now need someone to take Britain back to Brexit victory. I think there's a lot of people here questioning about the fact that Article 50, who is going to help us under Article 50? Who is going to be the one that puts their head above the parapet and allows us to call this and say that we are going to exit the European Union? I just wonder who that person's going to be, and I think we're all looking and waiting now, aren't we, for a leader to step up to the plate. Ferguson, you're in Mitcham. What would you like to say very quickly? Ferguson, are you still there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What would you like to say?
Yeah, what I voted out, and I just want to assure the rest of the people who are not sure that when we talk about leaving the EU, it's like talking about leaving a club, leaving a union, leaving a society. It doesn't mean that UK has been carved out of Europe. UK is still part of Europe. All it simply means is that UK is now able to look at the whole world and deal with the world without restrictions.
OK, so from your point of view, this has been a positive thing and a time to get out of a club that we've been paying membership of, and that we can now look at joining a much wider debate, a much wider trading obligation. We don't have the trading obligation of Europe. We can trade much wider. Thank you, Ferguson, for the final word. So bringing the positivity back for the 52 that dared to dream. We've been keeping you across a breaking news story this morning that the Labour Party is in a complete mess. Hilary Benn has been sacked from the shadow cabinet overnight, presumably for being a better speaker than Corbyn. Heidi Alexander has resigned, and we're expecting a lot more to drop off from the shadow cabinet today. We'll speak to LBC presenter Ian Dale on this in a moment. I want your thoughts on the Labour Party. Is the Labour Party redundant in the UK? Has it lost its way? Does it deserve to be in opposition, or does another party fit the bill? 0345 6060 973. 0345 6060 973. In this hour, we're going to be talking about the Labour Party, which is literally collapsing around our ears. So as I sit here, Hilary Benn has already gone. He has been sacked. We've seen Heidi Alexander. She's now resigned. We're told that more are going to drop off hour by hour. This has been carefully planned in order to destabilise the Labour Party and to show Corbyn exactly what his party think of him. So I'm now asking, is the Labour Party completely redundant in the UK today? Is there even such a thing as the Labour Party? Who's going to be the opposition? 0345 6060 973. Do give me a call this hour. Clearly this is a moving story, and we're going to keep up to date on it as we go along. So as people drop out of the shadow cabinet, we will keep you informed as to who's gone next. It's sort of like watching a group of people in front of a firing squad and seeing them disappear one by one. How on earth Jeremy Corbyn feels about this as a man, I really don't know, let alone as a politician, watching people that were supposed to be his closest team, his allies, his network of supporters, simply walk away from him and leave him alone after this referendum decision. The Labour Party are in a complete mess. Now, I'm just going to get a sort of frame of reference on this. We're going to speak to our very own LBC presenter, one of my favourites, Ian Dale, to get his thoughts on this. Ian, were you expecting this morning?
Well, I think having stayed up last night and getting a Sky News alert that Hilary Benn had been sacked, I think I did expect some others to follow. I understand that Ian Murray, the shadow Scottish secretary, is going to be the next one to fall on his sword, which of course gives Jeremy Corbyn an even bigger problem because there are no other Scottish MPs for him to replace him with. We could get to a point by the end of today where Jeremy Corbyn can't actually fill the places in a shadow cabinet because no one will serve. Now, in those circumstances, I don't know how it's possible for a leader to continue in office. So we're in uncharted waters here.
And who would, just as a sense of it, Ian, who would want to step up at this point? So if I think about it from my personal perspective, the idea of jumping onto a sinking ship doesn't feel very comforting, given that we're in a political age of ship-based references and captains of ships. Who would want to jump onto this one, which appears to be sinking?
Well, there are 230-odd Labour MPs, so that there will always be some who think, well, this is my chance to shine, this is my chance to get one of the big jobs. But the trouble is, the public won't have heard of them, and there will have been a reason why they haven't been offered promotion in the past. It's because they're not up to it. So he probably will actually have people, obviously, be able to fill his shadow cabinet, but with people who aren't up to the job. Now, bearing in mind that it is entirely possible that there will be a general election now, either later this year or at the beginning of next year. I mean, that is not a good place for the main opposition party to be in. And, of course, here, there is a real opportunity for Tim Farron and the Liberal Democrats. You might think that's a weird thing to say at this point in time, but he can really, if Tim Farron plays this right, he can really sort of get a real head start on getting the Liberal Democrats back into gear and getting a lot of support, because he's already said, look, we will go into election. I think he said on LBC this morning, we will go into the next election committed to taking Britain back into Europe. Now,
I look at
there are lots of Labour people who will think maybe I'll support them rather than Labour.
Well, yeah, but although, Ian, I do look at Tim Farron, and I look at him in the same way as I look at, my accountant, or people when I meet accountants, or maybe, people that maybe are librarians, real dullards that I wouldn't want to spend 2 minutes with, let alone be sat out with dinner.
I hope your accountant's not listening to this.
No, well, I'm sure he's not. He probably doesn't listen to radio. He probably does something more important with Excel spreadsheets. But what I'm trying to say is Tim Farron not the dullest man on the planet?
I think you're being very unfair to him. I think actually, if you ever interview Tim Farron, you always get something out of it. He always gives a newsline. He always says something that actually is quite interesting. When I talked to him on election night or on the programme on Friday, he admittedly said something that really annoyed people and sort of particularly annoyed people who had voted Leave. But he does get a reaction. Now, yes, he does come across sometimes as a bit preachy, a bit sort of, I would say, more like a sort of Church of England vicar than an accountant, maybe. But he's got quite a turn of phrase, and he's quite popular in his own party. And I don't know whether that can translate to the electorate. Who knows?
No, and I don't think so. I mean, you say he says the odd interesting thing. My mother says the odd interesting thing, but that certainly doesn't make her a politician, darling. So what sort of leadership are you backing? You are effectively the kind of, you can see the stars, you do predict the future. What sort of person, who do you think is going to come in as the new Labour leader?
Jeremy Corbyn, because there is no way that they can get rid of him, even if they want to, because of the makeup of the Labour Party now. Most of the people who voted for Jeremy Corbyn were these new £3 members. They haven't gone anywhere, and they will still want to vote for Jeremy Corbyn or someone of his ilk. Now, John McDonnell has ruled himself out of standing, even if Jeremy Corbyn resigned this morning. I don't actually believe a word that he says on it, but he categorically ruled himself out. But there would be someone from that wing of the Labour Party that would replace Jeremy Corbyn if Jeremy Corbyn decided not to re-stand. But all the indications are that he's not going anywhere, not voluntarily anyway.
And do you think this is a sort of a shout that says we don't need this type of, were Corbyn to stand down, were he to, that actually this sort of Labour leader isn't what we want? We don't need somebody who appears to love sort of socialism, Palestinian refugees, Islington, and everyone but Britain before, everybody else. But it's someone that seems to support every other country but our own. Is that a fair sort of feeling, do you think, of the country for Corbyn?
I think it's not unfair, but he's exactly what the Labour Party membership want, and they're the people that get to decide in the end. It's a bit like the Tory leadership contest. It's going to be decided by 150,000 Tory members. They are most likely to vote for Boris Johnson, I think. I'm not 100% sure. Is Boris Johnson what the country wants as Prime Minister? Well, the jury's out on that one too.
Ian Dale, thank you so much for letting us borrow you on a Sunday. I really appreciate that. And we'll follow this story with bated breath throughout this hour, and we will keep reverting to news on this as it comes in if anybody else resigns within this next hour. So do give us a call, 0345 6060 973. We're talking about the Labour Party, and I'm asking, is it completely redundant now in the UK? Has it lost its way? We need an opposition party in order for our democracy to work. There's no denying that. I would say the House of Commons has been a far poorer place because opposition has been so weak. Absolutely, PMQs has been more dull than at any time in history because Corbyn is a really useless public speaker, in my personal opinion. We need strong opposition. Who should it be? Is there an argument now that proportional representation would have brought us a better parliament? Tom, you're in Morecambe. What do you think about Labour?
Katy, I can't believe you just said that, proportional representation. What a brilliant common sense idea. What I want to say about Labour, my family were Northerners, were traditionally Labour voters, and I would say at least 95% of my family now wouldn't dream of voting for Labour again, for many, many reasons. Wouldn't dream of it.
It's interesting, isn't it, how that support's really just fallen away, I think, from where it was.
I think it's mainly, I know on my dad's side especially, the end straw, if you would, was the Iraq War, the fact that Gordon Brown sold off over gold, absolute ridiculous, economic policy. Many, many, many reasons, and I think the true opposition in this country is Mr Farage and UKIP. I think I think he should be Prime Minister, and he's a great guy, me personally.
And I think it's really interesting, isn't it, Tom, in terms of having a look at some of the statistics behind this. And I don't like to spend too long on numbers because I never think they reflect where our hearts are. But in terms of proportional representation, I think 4 million votes, isn't it, that went to UKIP, but we ended up with 1 seat. 1 million votes went to the Green Party. They ended up with 1 seat or similar.
It isn't true democracy, is it? Democracy, it should be every vote counts, and that will mean everybody who votes feels like they have made a difference. And at the minute, me personally, I've got no faith in our electoral system. Proportional representation will change that for me and my younger friends. I'm 27, so we all feel the same at the minute. That we feel that it's rigged. It might sound daft.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I'm a true believer in democracy. I campaigned for proportional representation as part of the UKIP conference this year. I would like to say I wasn't invited to the main stage. And I also campaigned with young people during this last referendum to try and encourage young people to turn out to vote. So whilst I may not necessarily agree with what young people have to say if they're voting Remain, I was part of a group of people who were trying to get people to turn out to vote because, of course, then democracy is at its most true, I think. Tom, if you had to move your support now, it sounds like you would move your support to UKIP or have moved your support to UKIP.
Oh, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Again, I personally think the Lib Labcon sing off the same hymn sheet and they're all looking after each other. Again, I think that the only true opposition, UKIP, and as much as I don't like them, the Greens, if you would. I think they're... the Labour Party basically is the Green Party. They're on the fringes. They fight for everything other than what's best for, let's just say, the indigenous Brit. I don't like using that word because... But, they fight on the fringes for everything else other than what they were actually...
Yeah, Tom, I'm totally with you there. And I do like using the word Indigenous Brit, actually, because I think people shout racist straight away, racist! But actually, all I'm saying is I'm standing up for people that were born here, bred here, like living here, and love this country most of all. I don't think there's anything racist about that. I think there's a lot to be proud of. But I think certainly what's going to happen with UKIP, bearing in mind they won the Leave vote for us up in the north, and yet now the new group of MPs talking about getting together to take us forward into our separation from the EU. They're talking about leaving Farage out altogether and giving him the cold shoulder, which feels very harsh. Thank you very much indeed, Tom, for your call. Give us a call here, 0345 6060 973. Breaking news coming out of the Labour Party this morning. Hilary Benn's been sacked from the shadow cabinet overnight. Hilary Alexander has waltzed out this morning, resigning. There's reports that there's more resignations to come. These have been planned to bring down the shadow cabinet. We'll bring you the rest of the latest when we get it. But I'm asking you for now, is this the end of the Labour Party? Is it now completely redundant? What exactly do they stand for? Maybe you still believe in Labour and you can explain to me who Labour are. I'm Katy Hopkins on LBC and the time's now 11:15. 0345 6060 973. We're talking about the Labour Party, which is collapsing around our ears. So Corbyn's saying he'll stay in place for now. We've got resignations coming in left, right and centre. Hilary Benn was sacked overnight this morning. Heidi Alexander has resigned and she's walked. There's reports there are more resignations to come. So we'll drop those down to you as soon as we get them. We'll bring you the latest when we get it. But I'm asking you right now, do you think the Labour Party is completely redundant? Maybe you came from a family that were lifetime Labour Party supporters, but what does Labour stand for now? For me and our last caller there, we're just talking about Labour seems to stand for the protest party, for the fringes, for everyone on the edge of everything, missing out entirely the sort of core of this great country of ours. Labour have come to represent anyone other than us. Kathleen, you're in Lincolnshire. What would you like to say?
I think you're right. I think I think the Labour Party is representing anyone other than a certain type of person. However, it is representing me,
yes.
And I don't think the Labour Party is redundant. I do think it's restructuring, and I do think sometimes you have to break something to fix it.
Yep.
And I do think that's maybe what's happening right now. I do think that Jeremy Corbyn was. I mean, I'm 41 years old. I only just took an interest in politics because I saw an interview with Jeremy Corbyn. I thought, wow, this person is taking a real humanitarian approach to politics that I've never seen before. You know, all I've ever seen is the very loudmouth, sort of braggart, very hooray Henry, very unrepresentative of me.
Yes.
In sort of as a mouthpiece. So I really hope that, I'm glad people are resigning. I'm glad people are leaving because I think what will come next will be better. And I think maybe, hopefully, it will be a party that is, through strength, able to listen to everybody, not just people on the fringes, you know.
Yes, that's interesting. So an idea that the Labour Party does stand for you, that certainly for you, maybe Corbyn as an individual, even if the party, the wider party,
I do need someone as an individual to be a good person. You know, I really don't need a mouthpiece. I have a mind of my own. The British public are intelligent. They are free thinking. We don't need to be sort of spoken for. We don't need the loudest person is not always the best leader. And I do think Jeremy Corbyn did make his policies very clear. We maybe weren't listening for those people that are blaming him for Brexit, which I'm not saying is a bad thing because it might work out.
I think that's a really great point, Kathleen, and really well put. Is that, sometimes you need to like someone, and Kathleen, they're saying that she found Corbyn genuinely likeable, authentic, I think is a word people use about him a lot. He genuinely believes what he thinks, doesn't change his position to please people, and that he feels real compared to these other mouthpieces that you often see. I think that's a really great call, Kathleen. Thanks very much for your time. 0345 6060 973. We're talking about the Labour Party, and I'm asking you whether they're completely redundant. What do they stand for? Kathleen just saying, well, actually stand for somebody that I can identify with, I quite like. And I understand her point there. Now, if you missed the last hour on LBC, then you missed out. I would say that. Please set your alarm for next week. It was a celebration, really, about Brexit winning the vote. So about Leave winning. It was a celebration for the 52% who voted for Leave and have felt, actually, for the last couple of days to be rather shrouded in mist, in the doom and gloom that has been thrown at us left, right and centre all over our media to try and make you feel like you made the wrong decision, but you didn't. If you're a Remainer, maybe you can see some truth in my argument if you're able to listen, that we do need a leader who's optimistic and we can take this country forward, and actually we should celebrate the 52% and we should stop giving out bad news. All that's at lbc.co.uk. If you go onto the website to have a look at the last hour of the show. Back to your calls now on the Labour Party, and we will bring you more breaking news as soon as we have it. We don't have anybody else walking just at the moment. Steve, you're in Dartford. What would you like to say?
I would like to say that there are some Labour MPs in whom one can have a great deal of...
OK. Now, who would yours be?
Kate Hoey, Gisela Stewart, John Mann, Frank Field and Dennis Skinner, the leaders of the Labour Leave campaign, who stood up for what they believed in circumstances where the great Jeremy Corbyn did not. Your last caller, who suggested Mr Corbyn was authentic and real, has blanked completely Corbyn's behaviour over the EU issue over the last few months. He acted entirely contrary to what he believed in, entirely contrary to his principles. And I think that's the one element that makes his position at the top of the Labour Party extremely difficult, because it might just annoy some of the young sickle and hammer red flag wavers who voted for him. But that apart, he's in a very, very strong position. Having said that, I think that whether Labour has as its head Jeremy Corbyn at one end of the spectrum, or David St Miliband returning from the International Rescue Island on the other side of the ocean at the other end of the spectrum, makes no difference. Why? Because the political party that we need from Labour or from anyone else is one that stands for three things: family, community and nation. And the Labour Party cannot cope with the idea of nation. It is an internationalist party. As such, it concerns itself with the problems of foreigners. It doesn't really concern itself with the opinions or needs of British people, and therefore it is going to fail.
I like that very much indeed. Thank you, Steve, for your hugely articulate call, which I enjoyed. So there he's saying Labour needs somebody that's going to stand for three important things in this order: family, community, nation, and that Labour in its current format is incapable of standing for nation, because they cannot sit themselves alongside anything that is nation. And I would agree with that entirely, actually. Paul, you're in Birmingham. What would you like to say?
Oh, hi, Katy. Lovely to speak to you.
And you.
I wish you could be Prime Minister.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
What I'd like to say is, I don't think the divide now in politics is between Labour and Conservative. I think we can see this new divide now, and you saw it represented by the vote by the Remain and Leave sides. On the Remain side, you had these metropolitan, lefty, liberal, out-of-touch career politicians. And on the Leave side, you had some great people from all parties, and they had this patriotism that the working class have, and these professional politicians don't. I mean, I'm a UKIPper, but I think, Gisela Stewart and Frank Field are wonderful people. And, it's what I'm trying to say is there's this sort of political class, which I wish we could, consign to history. And there's another class of politician who understands the average British person, and they don't sneer at them, and they try to listen to them. And I think there's a new divide, and I wish out of all this, we could have a new party. I mean, I know it sounds a bit idealistic, but a new party which kind of represents the average working class, the 52% who spoke out and said that they wanted their country back.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Thank you very much indeed for your call. Someone to represent the 52% of people who spoke out and want their country back. I think making a really valid point there about the Labour politicians who backed the campaign to leave. Those are the sorts of people, perhaps, that we need as part of the Labour Party going forward. We're just getting reports in that there are likely to be another 7 resignations from the Labour shadow cabinet today. This is after Hilary Benn was sacked overnight and Heidi Alexander resigned this morning. We'll speak to commentator and LBC presenter Andrew Pearce for an update on that very shortly. But right now we're back to your calls on the Labour Party, whether the Labour Party is now completely redundant in the UK, or what we're needing from a new Labour Party going forward if it is going to completely reform. Sophie, what do you think?
Oh, hi, yes. I think I'm echoing what the previous caller said, but I think that along the way, the Labour Party, this liberal elite, has used the kind of racism and attacking people for their opinions. We had Gordon Brown his microphone was on. He called somebody a racist. I think it was somebody who approached him about immigration. We had Emily Thornberry sneering at somebody with a white van and flags and everything.
Yes.
And I just don't think they realise this liberal elite shutting people down, not listening, controlling people all the time and what they could say. It was like a form of mind control. And it's just been going on for so long. They're so detached. And I have to say, this kind of Islington elite with these £2 million houses and these underfloor heating, it just doesn't ring true. And it's just, the other thing about Corbyn is he is so political, but it's a selective compassion. It's not for example, they're very, very pro certain things, but there was this dreadful anti-Semitism which was never challenged.
Yeah.
It's so insular looking and so detached from what people are really dealing with. And until they actually start doing something about it, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. People like Anne Cryer, who called out all those sex gangs up north, she was criticised by her own party for being Islamophobic, for being racist, and she was speaking out. These are the original principles of socialism, or Labour Party people, that you speak out when things are wrong, that you don't try and favour other people, but it's about democracy. It's disappeared totally from the Labour Party, and that's why, because they will not listen to people.
Absolutely. So, Sophie, thank you very much indeed for that, talking about the liberal elite there, and I think that was represented significantly, wasn't it, in the referendum results, where we saw London almost appear completely isolated, completely different, completely outside of, if you will, the rest of the UK, this sort of London liberal elite, the names that keep being thrown at us, that we should kind of aspire to be like, I suppose, Emma Thompson, Idris Elba, the glorious British Broadcasting Corporation, J.K. Rowling, all speaking out saying, oh, you must remain, and the elite, the liberal elite, London's going to remain, and then you saw the rest of the country going, no, actually, we're not. We're nothing like you. We don't feel like you. We don't operate like you. We don't live in £2 million houses. We don't have underfloor heating. We're not like you. We're different from you. And I really do feel like we've hit a point where the rest of the country is really very different from London and how London sees itself. We're talking about this breaking news coming out of the Labour Party this morning. Hilary Benn's been sacked. Heidi Alexander's resigned. There's reports of more resignation. One name just coming down the line now. I want to know what the Labour Party now stands for in 2016. Has it completely lost its way? Does it just wipe the slate clean and start again? Let's get more on this story from Glenn Moore, who has the 11:30 news headlines.
In the last few...
We're talking about this breaking news coming out of the Labour Party this morning. Hilary Benn's been sacked from the Shadow Cabinet overnight. Heidi Alexander has resigned this morning. And in the last few minutes, Shadow Minister Gloria De Piero has quit. For more on this, let's speak to Daily Mail consultant editor and LBC presenter Andrew Pearce. Andrew, these resignations just keep coming, don't they?
They certainly do. The kaleidoscope is well and truly being shaken up, Katy. I thought on Friday morning, as it was clear we'd voted for this brave new dawn, independence from the European Union, everybody was focusing on how long Cameron had got. It was obvious to me then how long has Jeremy Corbyn got, because the 9 million Labour voters who voted Labour at the last general election simply didn't do what they were supposed to have done. Places like Sunderland, Sheffield, Birmingham, Labour strongholds all voted massively to leave the European Union, and it's partly because Corbyn and the Labour leadership massively failed to get their message across that people should stay in the EU. And you know the truth is, Katy, Corbyn spent nearly his entire parliamentary career, 30-odd years, campaigning to leave the EU, and when he became leader, he was a very, very reluctant stayer-inner.
Yes, it seems that we didn't really see him at all during this campaign. He didn't really seem to work very hard on getting young people out to vote. I can't think of one appearance where I thought, oh, there's Jeremy trying to get people to vote.
Well, I went up to watch him on Sky on Monday, so that's the Monday before the referendum, and there was a young audience, the outrage in age between 18 and 30. He was hopeless. He was underwhelming. He was dull. I think he got one round of applause, and there was the most significant question was, would he take responsibility if Britain voted to leave the European Union? And that's the only time he got animated. He said, no, it's not my responsibility. If people vote that way, people vote that way. And I think the die was cast for him when we voted to leave the European Union. Tessa Jowell, a very Blairite former cabinet minister, came on my show on Friday night. I'd never heard her quite so angry about Corbyn. She was talking about the scandal of the way he'd run his campaign, and she said he clearly isn't fit to be Prime Minister. I can't see him as a future Prime Minister. And I thought then, are the seeds of a coup underway?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a terrifying thing about seeing someone like Jeremy Corbyn and thinking that man might one day represent our great nation. Someone like me would have to, I don't know, cast themselves into exile, which might make a lot of people very happy. Now, I'm being asked, Andrew, by a lot of people here on Twitter whether Diane Abbott might be next out the door, on the basis it will make everybody's weekend, including mine. What do you think about Diane Abbott? Will she be loyal?
She will be loyal because the only way she has a job in the Shadow Cabinet is because of her close friendship to Jeremy Corbyn. As you know, they used to be very, very close.
Very close.
But more will resign, and then what will happen, we'll probably get to the position there'll be about 10 of the shadow cabinet resign. Tomorrow there's a meeting of the Labour Parliamentary Party where this motion of no confidence, which had been put forward by Margaret Hodge, another Blairite MP, will be discussed, and I suspect the next day there'll be a secret ballot which will conclude he's lost the confidence of the Parliamentary Party. But Katy, here's the thing. What happens next? They then go into full leadership mode. Does he, as leader, automatically go on the ballot paper? His side say yes. People who oppose him say no. He has to get 20% of nominations of MPs, which he wouldn't get. But if he is on the ballot paper, if the lawyers prevail, I think he'll win the ensuing leadership contest, and then you could have a position where the Labour Party could split.
Interesting. And I think maybe, the young people that love Jeremy so much, maybe if he doesn't get the job, they could start a petition, Andrew, couldn't they? And they could click on a petition 3 million times to prove how much they love him and change nothing. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to help out this morning. Now, Andrew's show is on a Friday at 7:00 on LBC, so you'll be able to speak to him then and catch up with the news agenda with Andrew. But back to your calls right now. We're talking about the Labour Party. Has it lost its way? Is it deserving of being the opposition party in this country, given the fact that Corbyn is now surrounded people who are running away from him faster than people run away from Neanderthal bulls in a forest? I don't know where I got that expression from, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, is the Labour Party redundant in the UK? Anne, you're in Manchester. What's your view?
Morning, Katy.
Good morning.
I just say you're a brilliant inspiration. You've really cheered me up this morning.
Oh, well, that's good news. My husband always says if I leave the room, I cheer him up faster. But what would you like to say, Anne?
Right. In terms of the Labour Party, I was brought up as a socialist, and as a student, I was an idealist. I used to use my hard-earned grants on collecting for the miners' strike, etc. Now, Tony Blair brought the party into the centre and he made it a viable government for me. And since we've lost that kind of way forward, since Ed Miliband was put in charge, I think the Labour Party has been in decline. It no longer represents me. Corbyn isn't a viable leader. And what I would ask today is, after what happened on Thursday, and I was an outvoter, I just think we can see a broken society. And I just worry because I don't think any of the parties have got the strength within them to lead us forward.
And what do you think about this argument we were talking about earlier about proportional representation, that actually our Houses of Parliament would be a better or more democratic place possibly, or even have stronger opposition if people had been elected according to the numbers of votes that were cast? So, for example, UKIP got 4 million and the Green Party got 1 million, but both of those only got one MP. Do you think if we were more representative when we voted, that would be a good thing?
No, I've never believed in proportional representation. Sure. And to me it was always a Lib Dem way of trying to gain power. So no, I don't believe in that. And I do like our current system. My problem is that I don't think any of the parties have got any cohesion. They're all too busy fighting amongst themselves. And after Thursday, we've got massive challenges ahead. And I'm really scared because I don't see anyone who's actually going to pick up the baton and do what we need.
It's really strange, isn't it? Because I look and I think, right, let's take a guess. Let's take a sort of stab in the dark at who's going to be the next leader. And I honestly can't see one. I honestly can't see where Labour's going. I appreciate I'm not a Labour Party fan, never have been, never will be. But unless David Miliband's going to come riding back on his white charger, do you think that's possible?
It would be fantastic, but I don't see it happening. And I don't either see who's going to lead the Conservative Party or who's going to lead our country. And even if we called an election tomorrow, I think we would be in turmoil as to who we voted for and a way forward. So to me, the whole thing is a complete mess.
It is feeling a little uncomfortable, isn't it, this weekend? I'm sure in time it's all going to resolve itself, but at the moment it's feeling like we're all going to need a ballot box installed in our living rooms, the amount of times we're going to spend voting on various referenda and other elections over the next few months and years. Anne, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to call us this morning here at LBC. We're 0345 6060 973. We're talking about the Labour Party. Is it still deserving of being the opposition party Party. My fear, having seen how weak Labour have been in the last few months in particular, is that we've lost all sense of true opposition in the House of Commons. We've lost all sense of the jousting, the intellectual jousting that used to go on. That's really disappeared because Corbyn, to me, is intellectually weak, or at least is not a good public speaker. What do you think about the Labour Party and its future? Now, Neil, you're in Bishop Auckland. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I would like to say the whole thing's a joke, basically. I'm just a normal person. I'm 30 years old. I've got a job. Well, I'm a sailor, but it doesn't matter about. I'm not going to cry me a river about any of that. But sorry if you have to slow us down because I speak a little bit too fast. Okay.
Okay.
But I spent about 3 hours, and I'm still on there now, looking at our constitution. Okay, online, legislation.gov.uk. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, right? But the way things are at the moment, I'm watching this Bloomberg channel here. I have no idea what's going on, but all I know is everything's gone red and everything's going down. I was watching the vote till 5:30 in the morning the other night.
Yes.
And our currency was dropping out of the sky. Now, the Labour Party sacked Hilary Benn. How on earth that's happened? But as far as I think Labour's finished. I think coming from somewhere in a mining town up here saying something like that, you've got to be prepared. If my dad heard us say that, then I'd have to run away. But the Labour Party's finished. I think the Conservatives are too. The Lib Dems can't be trusted, and UKIP, if Nigel Farage is in power, he's too far right. I think, honestly, what needs to happen here now, this is getting really serious.
Neil, just in terms of who you do have faith in, so having gone through the list of people that you don't have faith in, despite the fact that your father, for example, would be still staunch Labour, would not like to hear you say... Again. Yeah, start again.
We've got to start again. This is going to sound crazy, okay? But I'm looking at emergency, what's it called? The Emergency Powers Act, 1976. The Section 20, Her Majesty may, by order in the Council, make emergency regulations if satisfied of these conditions. Now, I've read through them briefly, but I've said there's somewhere in there that says you've got to have a Prime Minister, okay, and a Leader of the Opposition. Now, we don't have a Prime Minister, and in about 20 minutes' time, we'll not have a Leader of the Opposition. Mm-hmm. Now, it's time. The country needs to take a break. The country needs to take a breath and take a step back. If this is going to sound crazy, okay, but the Queen needs to call the army in and kick the government out.
Ooh, Neil. That is extreme. But Neil, thank you very much indeed for your view. I think what's really interesting for me there, just kind of taking a step back from your comments as a whole, is that sense that somebody in the UK is being so alarmed, moved, motivated by what's going on the screens, watching Bloomberg there, watching the news, that you've been driven to have a look at, gov.uk, that's right, isn't it? www.gov.uk. You've been motivated to go to that website, to look up the Emergency Powers Act and to see where next for this country. Like, you're at that point of wondering how on earth this country might resolve itself if we end up with no Prime Minister, our current status, no Prime Minister in opposition. It is a peculiar thing. Corbyn's saying at the moment he's going to stay where he is. But the fact that you've been motivated to go to that website to look and are talking about the Emergency Powers Act, which was brought about in 1939, is a curious thing, isn't it, in our country in 2016 that we're looking at emergency powers. It's a really peculiar place to be in. Massive news out of the Labour Party this morning. Hilary Benn's been sacked from the shadow cabinet overnight. Heidi Alexander has taken a walk, and Gloria De Piero has both resigned. She's resigned as well. So where does this leave the future of Labour? Its women are clearly being very decisive. Has it completely lost its way? Taking your views now here on LBC, 03456 060 973. This is Katy Hopkins, and the time is now 11:47. 26. Tom Swartbrick there, coming up after me. He's talking about whether young people should feel betrayed by an older generation. And that's obviously a bit of a tricky one for me. Our older generation saw the Luftwaffe. Our older generation fought through the war. Our older generation fought for our freedom with Enfields. And I do not feel betrayed by them. If anything, I am indebted to them for all of my life. Just having a small rant there prior to Tom's show. But do give him a call, 03456060973. We're talking about the Labour Party, whether it's completely redundant in the UK. Has it lost its way? Is it deserving of being an opposition party in this country? Or does another party fit the bill? A big narrative coming through here on Twitter, across your texts, across your tweets, saying this really is Labour Party. Corbyn is a party of the fringes of the UK and does not support the working class, the centre, the nation. This idea that it's fine for family, it's fine for community, but it doesn't look at the nation as a whole. Now, David, you're in Crawley. What would you like to say?
Morning, Katy. If I was a pygmy in the jungles in the Congo, I'd take you on as a second wife. You would keep all the other tribes at bay. You'd bring light. You'd bring humour. You're good at your job. Yeah, I take my hat off to you,
David. I'm grateful for the compliment of being offered the role as your second wife. That is kind.
Katy, what I want to say is that there's a split amongst Labour, within Labour. There's a split within the Conservatives. The main issue here is there's a decisive split between the career politician and the man in the street. That is the biggest worry. It's not only in the UK. This is what's led to the rise of the Trumps of the world. People are tired of the bull dust spewed out by the career politician. They say one thing with the right hand and they take with the left hand. And people are tired. People are tired of all the talk. They're looking for the Borises and the Donalds to lead them on a different path. And in all honesty, all the scaremongering, both the Conservatives and the Liberals peed on their own shoes, for want of a better expression. They're the ones that dug their own graves with all their scaremongering. And when you look at Corbyn, he's got that smacked bum look. He's useless. He's absolutely useless. But when you look at the other chap that's just resigned, Hillary, he's the chap that they need.
Yeah.
But what's happened? It's exciting.
It is exciting.
I'm from Zimbabwe, and we declared UDI from Britain in 1965. And we were being led by puppets up until 65 by career politicians in ivory towers in London telling us what to do. And as Ian Smith said to us one day, out of that bunch of career politicians, there were several linked to pedophilism and et cetera, et cetera. So we were told what to do by a bunch of morons. From between 1965 and 1980, Rhodesia went from nowhere to everything. Our manufacturing sector boomed. Our agriculture boomed. We were the second most vibrant economy in Africa. The same will happen with Britain. It will force people. The average man in the street today won't notice the change. But it will force everyone to get off their bums and do something. There's a bigger world.
David.
There's so much more out there. You're trading. For trade. It's massive. You've got such massive potential.
David, thank you so much for your call. I love that call, rather, and I love your analogies that you have for people and the way that you've described them. But David telling us there we could all be braver, also offering me the position as his second wife. Quite exciting stuff there for me. Can someone here on the text, can someone point out to Katy Hopkins, she is far from the younger generation, thank you for that. They are the 18 to 24-year-olds, not her, the old crone. She's part of the betrayers, not the betrayed. Oh, sure thing. Yes, sure thing, I'm part of the betrayers. Yeah, young people, because I went out and I tried to get you to vote. I spent my time for free trying to get you to vote. I went out and voted. I pay my income tax to support you at your universities. I come to your universities to teach you how to think more openly and freely, because actually I'm part of the tolerant few, because you, young people, have turned out to be far more intolerant than anyone of my generation. And you, young people, think you're too good to open the door for people who brought this country back for you to have the life that you have, to have freedom that you have. So no, you will not call me a betrayer. I stand up for leave. I stand up for the 52%. And you, son, can wind your neck in. Jason, you're in 7 Notes. What would you like to say?
Hi. The reason people are asking for Corbyn to leave right now is because he didn't get more Labour people to vote Remain. That's the wrong question. That's not why he should go. The reason why he should go is because the Labour Party doesn't represent its people. What we've got is the patronising politician going, oh, we didn't get our message across and we didn't get our people to vote the way we wanted. Those are the wrong questions. What they should be saying is, why don't we represent the people? If the people of the UK, 52%, and if you're looking at England, about 56%, actually wanted out of the EU, why is that not represented among the political class? The Labour Party should be firing the MPs that didn't want to leave. Everywhere their constituents wanted to leave and the MP wanted to stay, they should fire the MP, and the same goes for the Tories.
And do you think, Jason, that Labour still have a place in this country? Do you think they still represent the opposition? I really don't even know what Labour is anymore. It's sort of a memory of Blair. It's a bit of old Labour Kinnock, staunch kind of coal mining territory. It's a bit of sort of Corbyn waffling around in Islington supporting Palestinians. I can't give you a clear picture of what Labour is. Can you help me?
Yeah, the Labour Party is misnamed now. It should be the party that represents people that have no aspiration, no hope, no job, and don't actually want one. I mean, Labour doesn't actually represent the working person. The working man, especially the working man on low wages, has seen their wages held down for years. They're saying, "Oh, the only problem with mass immigration is that there are occasionally employers that will pay people less than the minimum wage." That's not the problem. When you've got an unlimited supply of labour that's willing to work for the minimum wage wage becomes the only wage. When you have 330,000 people a year moving to the UK.
Yes.
You have to be building 180,000 houses a year. You have to build just to keep up with the people that are moving here.
Yep.
How many hospitals, prisons, schools, roads, buses, tubes do we have to build just to keep up with the people that are turning up and saying, "Hey, I'd like to live here"?
Absolutely.
And
go on, Jason.
The Labour Party have been running. They've been running a kind of. In 2001, when Blair dismantled immigration control, effectively what he was trying to do was offer passports for votes in order to guarantee sort of Labour in power forever. But the big mistake was that they made was in giving Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland its own assemblies.
We'll see more of that, I think. Jason, I'm going to cut you off there just so I can go to Steve in Wimbledon for a last call in this hour. Steve, you have the floor.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to say what you just said about 18 to 24-year-olds being far less tolerant than your generation. Growing up in the 70s and 80s as a young black kid in this country, I can quite categorically tell you your generation was far less tolerant than the 18 to 24-year-olds who want a few busts removed and think things are too racist. But moving on to the Labour Party, they are imploding. I think, to be honest, they should get rid of all of these people. I mean, these people saying they're going to resign, they're not falling on their sword. They're just resigning in the full knowledge that when someone else comes back in, they're going to get their job back. So it's a bit pathetic, really. If I had my wish, either David Miliband would come back or Chuka Umunna would stand up.
Yeah, I always think, Steve, thank you very much indeed for your call. I always think it's a bit like chess, isn't it? They're just kind of working out strategically what's their best move for their own political ambitions going forward. Thank you so much for all your calls and your comments, your texts, your tweets today. I hope I managed to bring some optimism to this weekend's referendum fallout in a world of lefty liberals. If you do want to listen back to today's show, don't forget about my podcast. I'm wrangling to get it for free. I'll carry on with that right now. I'm back here from 10 o'clock next Sunday. In the meantime, you have the lovely Stig Abel to look forward to at 3. But now, keeping you across this breaking Labour Party story is the wonderful Tom Swarbrick.